Hello and welcome to the world's first Paul Weller fan podcast. I'm Dan Jennings. This is the story of 66, a celebration of the brand new album from the legend that is singer, songwriter and musician Paul Weller. This new series features podcast conversations with many of the huge talents that have been involved in the creation of Paul's 17th solo studio album. What I hope is that these podcasts give you a deeper insight into the creation of the new LP and that sheer joy of the creative process. And ultimately, it all comes back to the songs. What you'll hear about this LP, probably more than any other, is an album packed full of collaboration. Welcome to the story of 66. On this episode of the podcast, and yes, I can't quite believe I'm saying this either, I'm joined by another absolute legend of music. Noel Gallagher is my very special guest. This is an amazing hour of conversation, so many hilarious stories. What we uncover as well is somebody who not only loves the Jam, loves the Style Council, loves Paul Weller as a musician, but also somebody who clearly is a very close friend. This isn't a superficial showbiz relationship, folks. There's a real deep connection. We're going to explore that friendship, that relationship, while sticking into the tunes they've collaborated on over the years, some of the live performances where they've got up on stage together as well, and the truth about Jumble Queen from Noel himself. All coming up on the podcast. Let's get into it. Noel Gallagher, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's a pleasure, thank you.
Lovely to see you. How are you?
I'm all right.
Busy as always?
Well, I'm in the studio noodling around. I'm not doing anything with any great urgency. I've still got a few gigs to wrap up on the Council Skies tour, which will take me to the end of August. And then I'm free doing whatever I want to do. But I am, kind of tentatively working on a few tunes, but nothing.
Well, we'll talk about this prolific nature that Paul's got and whether you're kind of mirroring that in any way, shape or form as we go through this. Be interested to know. Let's kick off with 66. Let's talk Jumble Queen, if that's all right. Talk to me about how this came about. Where did this come from your point of view?
I've co-written a couple of tunes on his albums down the years and played on several. And he would usually organise it in advance. Like when I played on Did I play on Stanley Road? I think yeah, it's like I was in the studio and then these dates come down, blah, blah, blah. When he was doing 22 Dreams, it was like, oh, should we do that? But for this one, I just happened to be sat in the studio when I was working on Council Skies, and he just called up, and I hadn't seen him for a while. And we live. I mean, we are neighbours. We live literally around the corner from each other.
Alan McGee said you could see each other from your kitchen.
That's before his front room used to look into my kitchen, which was quite disconcerting, I've got to say.
To see the washing up piling up. Yeah.
Well, he texted me one night, and my phone went. I mean, we digress now, but he texted me one night, and I suddenly sat in, and it dinged. I was like, oh, that's well. And he just said, come to the window. And I go to the window and he's on his balcony having a cig, and we're talking to each other over the car. All right. But anyway, I hadn't seen him for a while because we're both making records. He just said, look, I've got this tune. He said, I think the backing track is great. He said, but I've got no words for it or anything. Do you fancy seeing if you can write something? So I said, yeah. And I just ordered food, right? And this is no word of a lie. And he sent it to me on my phone, and I played it. And I wrote all the words before the food arrived. It kind of happened in about 20. It caught me on a really, really good day. Like sometimes I've done this with people before. Can you write something? It takes months. Might never happen. And then some of these things just fall out of the sky. And whether it was a combination of the backing track being inspiring or it was one of those days.
That's mad. The magic, like 20 minutes.
Yeah, the magic was in the air. He sent me the thing, and then I had a guitar and I worked out what it was. And then I hummed a bit of a melody, and it all just came in one go. And I sent the lyrics back to him, and he called me and said, you just fucking wrote them now? And I said, yeah. And he didn't. I still to this day don't think he believes me. He was like, what, you've just done it now? And I was like, yeah, I've just done it now. And he's like, no, you fucking had them lying around. And I was like, no, I've just done it now, fucking hell. And I did a thing on my guitar on the phone, sent it back to him, sent him the words, and then he sent it back to me. I can't remember whether it was an hour later or 2 hours later. And it all fit and it was perfect. And he said, have you got a title? And I was like, Jumble Queen came, I think, between the two of us, we came up with a title. And that was it.
That's mad. I mean,
and the next thing, he's playing it in a gig in Stockholm or somewhere, and I'm like, well, it's like goes back to the instant karma John Lennon thing. It's like, write it, get it out, do it, get it out. But the bit in the middle which has the instrumental section, he was like, well, what about this bit? And I said, leave that for the space. And he said, but I'm thinking that could be a chorus. And I was like, well, I can't help you there, mate. I'm just like...
Some of this you're going to have to do yourself.
I'm like, I've got a burger arriving, you know what I mean? And I said, leave the space. I think it worked when I heard it in... it's funny because it's a bit out of step with the rest of the album, I think, that song. The album itself, when he sent it to me, I thought it was quite very laid back. And, or as he put it, he sent it to me, and then what he always does is he'll send you a CD of his album, and then if you've not listened to it within 24 hours, he'll call you up. You fucking listen to that record, what? And you're like, mate, we've got kids, you know what I mean? I'm like, so he calls me, have you listened to it? I said, yeah, listen to it. He said, what do you reckon? I went, very laid back. He went, what, you mean fucking boring? And I mean, I'm getting ready to go somewhere and I've got the phone and I'm kind of having on the phone. What, you mean fucking boring? And I was like, no, I never said that. It's chilled, you know what I mean? It's kind of very laid back. When I was listening to 66 as it was going on, I was thinking, well, where on earth does this track fit in with this, But it works somehow.
It wouldn't have sounded out of place on kind of like Paul Weller Movement, those early days, like Yolanda and that were in the band, I don't think. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. He was very enthusiastic about the backing track. I mean, he's enthusiastic about most things, and rightly so. But he was very, I've done this thing and it's fucking great. It's going to go blah, 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 blah. But I just need the words. And it could be on 22 Dreams. It's kind of like that. There's a joy to it. And I mean, it was meant to be, because these things, if they just fall out of the sky, they're there. They're already there. You've just got to catch them. And that was it. And I can't wait to see it live when I do eventually catch up with them, yeah.
That's mad. I mean, the fact is that it feels that easy, but it is like a that's entertainment type thing in terms of the simplicity of it all the time.
Well, only songwriters will know what we're talking about here. It's bizarre for people to think that Live Forever was written in under 40 minutes. It's bizarre for people to think that, but these things do happen. They're not often, right? And I'm not saying it's every time you're in a thing you write a song in 25 minutes. I mean, life would be you'd have a better life if you did. You know what I mean? These things do happen, and it's rare, but we're very different, me and Weller, but we're very similar as well. The work ethic is almost identical, and he's at it every day. I'm at it every day, and if you're not at it every day, these things are passing you by. That's what I think anyway. That's how I look at it. These things are passing you by, There's a river full of songs, a river full of ideas, and if you're not fishing, you're not getting out. It's as simple as that, and that particular day, it was happening, When I'm sending him back the words, it is a stream of conscious kind of thing. And even when I'm sending them back, I'm thinking, this can work one or two ways with him. He can either think this is the greatest thing, or just go, you fucking having a laugh or what?
Yeah.
So you kind of, like when the phone goes, you're like, oh, okay, all right. Hello? And he loved it. He thought, there you go. It was meant to exist, I think.
When it's not like that, and there will be periods of time, I guess, where it's more of a struggle to get the writing going. And how much do you kind of worry about that, think about that, or is it just you don't at all?
I don't. He actually, when I first ever met Paul in '94, he didn't offer me any advice, but he did say something to me which has stuck with me for years, and it might be the best, most practical bit of advice I've ever had, which is relevant to this question, is he just said, when it's not there, don't chase it. Just let it go and let it find you. And at the time in 1994, right, every time I went to the fucking toilet, I was writing a song that became famous, right? So it didn't apply then. But as I got older, and that thing when you're young and powerful, and it kind of dissipates and leaves you a little bit. Your instinct is to try and chase it, and I always hark back to that. I remember it was in the house I was renting in St. John's Wood, and we were pissed, It was like, don't run after it, you know what I mean? It's like it will, if it's going to come, let it find you. And that's what I do now. If things are not working, he's the same. He'll have a song which is 12 years old, on his new record. I don't know whether there's one on 66, and I'm the same. There'll be some kind of an idea, but it didn't work. But there was something about it that you were interested in, and just park it for a bit. And I've done that. Some songs have taken me 8 years to finish off, but you let it, if it's got something of value in it and it's good enough, it will come back to you. So to answer your question, I don't worry about it, and that kind of thing comes with experience. I've made a lot of records. He's made a lot of records. And we've seen it all. Although we're still learning, I'd like to think. On the other hand, we've seen it all as well. So it's just I'm calm with it now. I would imagine he is too. He's a lot calmer than he was.
Yeah, I guess there's also that thing of you've written so many songs that you don't want to be repeating yourself. And Paul said that with this one. It was like, actually, he didn't have a huge amount of ideas in terms of lyrics, but he loves creating music. So he kind of, I think his words were he farmed them out a little bit because he kind of didn't want to repeat himself.
Well, yeah, maybe that's why. Yeah, well, I didn't know that. I didn't know he was lyrically, he didn't have many, because his lyrics are amazing to me. I think he's one of the most underrated lyricists ever. His words are, if I could write lyrics like that, I'd give up music and be a fucking poet. But that's interesting. I did not know that, which is well, I thought I was special then. He was I thought he was there going, you know what this tune needs? It fucking needs NG. Well, no, so now you're telling me he's farming it outside fucking any Tom, Dick and Harry.
Right. I think I got one, yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Let me ask you, because have you ever been in a room writing together?
Oh, yeah.
So the songs like Echoes Around the Sun from 22 Dreams would have been, this wasn't...
Yeah, and I have to say, more often than not, it doesn't happen. How many songs have we co-written? We did the thing for the Monkeys. We did this one. We did Echoes Around the Sun. Let's just say, because I can't remember. Maybe
there's one that Paul talks about of that you were writing a potential. You wanted it to be a Bond song, and I've never known which one that was. I don't know if that was one as well.
Yeah,
maybe Impossible Idea, perhaps. But was that your title or something? Maybe it was that.
That was my title, but he shortened it. My title was quite flowery and a bit long. It was like the blah 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 blah, the impossible something. And he went, well, let's just call it The Impossible Idea. And I was like, all right, mate, it's your tune. But to answer your question, yeah, we sat man on man playing guitar. More often than not, that doesn't happen.
Right.
I don't know whether it's because we're both very opinionated. He's got very strict ideas. And so have I don't co-write with many people because I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I'll do it myself. He's obviously, Paul Weller. He doesn't co-write with many people. So when we do it, it's kind of out of, or shall we? You know what I mean? Yeah, and it's more often than not, it's never worked. I remember going down to a studio once. I can't remember what album it was for. Come down to the studio, we'll see if we can do a tune. I remember going down there and I had a few ideas on the way down. He fucking hated them all. And I was like, I've got something, and he's kind of going, no. And I'm like, I've got another thing. And I went, no. And another thing on the mellotron, no. And it was kind of a fruitless day. And he was saying, well, I was thinking about this. And I was like, no. And then he was saying, well, I've got another thing it's called. And I was like, no. And we've had more days like that than we have of fucking hell, amazing. I think the best way that we work is if he's got something and he sends it to me, or if I've got something and I send it to him, where I find it very difficult to sit opposite someone.
I guess there's that kind of vulnerability as well, isn't there? You're kind of open. I don't know if you have that type of relationship, but...
I had posters of this guy on my wall when I was a fucking teenager at school, right? So it is, the being the Jam fan thing is all past now, you know what I mean? He's my mate now, right? Still, for me, right, it'd be like sitting down across, a table with fucking McCartney. And let's say, let's write a song. He'd be just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You quickly realise what shit kicker you are because he's fucking amazing. Do you know what I mean? But it can be intimidating. And like I say, with songs, to describe it to people who don't know what it's like is difficult because most people, and rightly so, think that when you write a song, you go, okay, today we're going to write a song about this and it's going to go like this. Well, that's not what happens at all.
So you think with an album, we're going to write a song 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. And you have the idea and the will. Let's write a song, right? Yes, let's do it. But you can't pull these things out of your ass. You know what I mean? It's like you have to wait. And like that day when he sent me the thing for Jumble Queen, it just that happened and that was it. And it was great. I dare say if we were in the same room, it would have happened as well. There was just something in the air that day, But yeah, well, like I say, more often than not, we've had those days where you're going, well, got to get off then. Nothing's happened, and there'll be me and him and two other guys in the studio sat there all day watching two guys going, nah, no. But then we have had some great days, when we wrote whatever the track is, we wrote for the Monkees.
Birth of an Accidental Hipster.
Yes, The Birth of an Accidental was one of my titles as well.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, like that. That is a mad tune, right? Yeah, we wrote that together in his studio. It was one of the days where, it was happening, do you know what I mean? And every idea followed another. And then he did a demo and we were like, what are we going to do with it?
Oh, so it wasn't intended for the Monkees, no?
No, we wrote it. I mean, it all happened very, very quickly. We wrote this tune and then he said, would you want to use it? And I was in between records and I was like, well, I think we were both in between. Then we were just hanging out. And then I think just literally like a week after, some guy called me and said, the Monkees are getting back together. And I was like, right. And they were like, they're asking people to write songs to them. And I was like, right. Well, they've asked of you. And I was like, no. And then as I put the phone in, I went, oh, hang on a minute. I called the guy back and I said, me and Weller have written this song like a couple of weeks ago and sent it to them anyway. They fucking loved it. And it's a far out little tune, man. It's crazy.
It's a great fit, though.
Have you heard his? Have you heard? Have you heard his version of it?
Yeah.
His version. By the way, the version that we did of it is further out than the version that they did. It's crazy.
Is there a version with you on vocals anyway, kicking around?
There might be with the middle eight, the bit where it slows down to that was my bit. Right. There might be a bit of me singing that and playing drums.
Let's talk about the Jam. You mentioned. So when was the discovery?
No, I remember seeing them on the old Grey Whistle test doing Eating Rifles in 1978.
You'd have been, what, 12, 13?
The age, where you're getting into music, And, well, as you know yourself, people from our age growing up, music was everything. There was nothing else, right? Thankfully, and I don't say that like there was nothing. It was about, thank the fucking Lord there was nothing else. And so music and music programs and the radio and 7 inches was everything. Yeah, the punk, which blended into new wave kind of thing. Yeah, they would, and I just thought, fucking hell. Even then at that age, you knew what a good song was and, what was good and what was not. And it's difficult to explain to people now how big they were. They were huge. They were the most important band in the country when there was a lot of bands in the country. They were the most important band. And they've gone on now, to me, to be as important as the Beatles.
Listening to Paul talking this week, actually, to Namone on Six Music, and he was saying about the fact that kind of capsule in time, because they split when they did. It's similar to the Beatles in terms of the split. And he was like, can you imagine the Beatles through kind of the 80s and 90s, what that would have been? But it's similar to Oasis, I think, where you've got that kind of period of time and that's locked in. That's not changing. And we'll talk about the questions you must get endlessly asked because Paul does about the Jam and that. But
every band has a magic 5-year period. The Smiths had it. The Pistols had it. The Jam had it. The Stone Roses had it. The Mondays had it. All the bands that have shaped the fabric of, the musical furniture, all the cool bands, they have that 5-year thing. Now, whether you go on after that is irrelevant. You have this period where you make your mark. And it's no coincidence. The Pistols split off after 4, 5, 6 years. Jam, 5 years. The Smiths, 5 years. Yeah, the Jam is perfect. The story of the Jam is perfect. They started as, youth, I won't say angry, but, punk new wave, and developed all the way through to Beat Surrender, at an extraordinary fucking pace. Then they were gone, the way it should be, yeah. For example, The Clash went on too long. So, yeah, they were amazing. But I mean, I still listen to them today. In fact, I'm doing a tune right now for what will be my next record, which is very reminiscent of the Jam.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's going to be fucking livid when he hears it. Not that it's better than the Jam in any way, but he'll be going. It's like when he heard Council Skies, the track. He went, fucking yeah, style Council Skies, mate. And I was like, very good. That's very good. Yeah. I was like, very good. He should be a fucking comedian, mate.
You mentioned the power of the kind of single as well at that time, and how many units they were. All these bands were shifting, but the fact that Jam was shifting like 500,000.
Well, I just on that point, I remember buying Stand and Deliver by Adam and the Ants, right? And it got to number 1. And I'll never forget it. The single came in, it was a white sleeve, but it was wrapped in a poster. Now, the thing it said, limited edition, first 750,000 with free poster. first 750,000. The first 750,000 is a limited run of a fucking 3/4 of a bastard million 7 inches. It's like, well, you didn't think anything of it at the time, right? Fucking hell, you saw 750,000 of anything now, you'd be lucky.
Yeah.
It's
and
unbelievable.
be able to live on it for the rest of your life as well.
Yeah, it was manufacturing the fucking posters. What?
But also the power of the B-side. I think that must have been an influence on you as well, because that comes through right through Paul's career in terms of obviously the Jam, the Style Council. We got it at the beginning of the early solo years as well, and we got it with you.
Well, I have to say my two of the most important bands in my musical life are the Smiths and the Jam, and both had incredible B-sides and B-side albums, and that was something. It wasn't a thing that I designed for Oasis. Just thankfully, I didn't write B-sides. I just wrote songs and coupled them with the thing, and that was it. So yeah, those two bands, the Smiths and the Jam, have got. It's not just about the singles and the art. There's a whole other thing going on.
Well, it's songs that weren't on albums, and I know.
Yeah. It's no coincidence why Oasis are as revered as they are, because say a kid's getting into it today, dad buys him Morning Glory, of course, and then Definitely Maybe, and then there's all these, and then he's another 5 years working out what the fucking hell's all this other shit. Do you know what I mean? Which are equally as good or even better than what was done on the album. Yeah. So it's no coincidence that bands like the Jam and ourselves and the Smiths are held in that kind of esteem.
How did you feel? So I'm just doing the maths. You'd been 15 when the band split. So at the time,
yeah. Well, I remember coming home from school and a guy who'd left school. So I was in the final year of school, and I remember a guy who'd left school the year before, but was our mate. When we got off the number 50 bus outside the Maldive pub on the corner of Maldive Road in Kingsway, I will never forget it. He was waiting at the bus stop, and he was like a little mod dude with the shoes on and all that kind of thing. And he had a parka and a shirt and tie. And as we got off the bus, he was waiting for us to come home from school. And of course, no social media and all that. We got off. I can't remember what his fucking name was. I can't remember what his name was now. The first thing he said, he says, the Jam has split up. And we were like, what? Like, the Jam has split up. And we were like, no. It's just been announced on the radio, and it was going to be on nationwide that night. And he'd done the famous interview in Brighton where he said, I don't want to go on until I'm 25 and mean nothing.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
But that's what people thought at the time, right? It was like,
I didn't get a record deal until I was 27. So it blows that fucking theory out of the water for a start. But yeah, you can't explain to people now. It was a big fucking deal. It was on the news, and he had to go on the news and explain himself.
Yes.
And then they did that farewell tour, and there was anger amongst Jam fans. And it would be interesting how that would have played out under social media these days, the fucking anger. And I remember Jam fans being, a lot of Jam fans on principle were not having the Style Council just because it wasn't the Jam. I love the Style Council, one of my favourite ever groups. And that documentary that came out a few years ago, I was so pleased that finally it reaffirmed the genius. And a lot of Jam fans from my council estate were not having it. Wasn't the Jam. What's she fucking doing? What's she fucking doing? It was a big deal, to break up. And the balls of it at 23 or whatever old he was, breaking up the biggest band in Britain. And because he wanted to go and do something different. It's like, fucking hell, mate. And
it's also, it's the question he was always asked was, when are you getting the Jam back together? Will you get the Jam back together? And he was always absolutely adamant that never, ever, right? But you must you get that all the time now with your band. Right?
Yeah. It's usually when I've got a record out, it's just fucking, it can be exhausting, but what can I'm not sure what it is you can do. Do you know what I mean? It's all you can do is just say, keep batting the question away. Even the way that he sings now, let's just say in some parallel universe that the Jam announce a fucking thing tomorrow. How's he going to sing those songs?
Yeah.
The way that he has evolved into who he is now. I'm not going to speak for him, right? But for me, I'd go and see them fucking right. I would. I'd be in the dressing room saying it's fucking the best thing. But the songs, the two up tapping youth and youth explosion and the anger of youth and all that kind of thing. So yeah, but fair play to him. Do you know what I mean? It's like, fair play to him.
Let me ask you about the Style Council then. So that was a big band for you as well. You absolutely loved them, right?
Still are. I love them. Yeah, I love them. My interest in them had waned a bit towards the end. I dare to say a lot of people's interest had waned towards the end. But that first, I don't know, how long were they together? Again,
83 to like 89, 90, yes.
Yeah.
For the first couple of years.
Yeah.
Wow.
The first, I'd say up until 83, 4, 5, up until about 87. The first 5 years. Fuck, I mean, I'll argue with anybody. It's as good as anything that he's ever done. Anything. And that's not looking back on it. Like, I felt it at the time. I had all those records, all those EPs. I didn't quite understand what the fuck they were going on about.
The Cappuccino Kid.
And all that. It's a known fact that you couldn't get a cappuccino in Manchester till 2018. So it's like, you're reading the thing and you're going, my mum's Irish. What's a cappuccino? She's like, I don't know what a fucking cappuccino is.
Well, I think there were tenants, so before Paul Weller came along, the Starcats came along, everybody just called it frothy coffee.
I thought they were great, particularly the singles, because they didn't really do albums, did they? They didn't.
Well, the first year was just this run of amazing singles, wasn't it? Yeah. And then got to Cafe Blur.
Yeah, the first year, 18 months, those singles are fucking amazing. Amazing. Quite dodgy videos as well, it's got to be said.
Yeah, you're right. You get Speak Like a Child, Money Go Round, Long Hot Summer.
Speak Like a Child, Ever Changing Me is one of the best ever songs. Walls Come Tumbling Down, Shout to the Top. I mean, there isn't a fucking woman in the world who doesn't love that tune.
What was the story? You had a dance-off with Weller at that song, didn't you?
Well, I was having a party. I was at a party at my house one night, and it was a very funny night. It kind of sums him up in a nutshell.
When would this have been roughly?
In the very early 2000s, and there's quite a few people there. Loads of birds. Fucking quite a great night, and someone wanted to put Shout to the Top on, right? And they were going to me, "Oh, do you think the other guy going? Do you think you'll go mad?" And I was like, I don't fucking know. I mean, who cares? What's he going to do? Well, smash the gaff up. And somebody went up to him like, excuse me, Paul, would you mind if we played Shout to the Top? And he was like, and he got up and he said, oh, fucking come and dance to it, man. He said to me, we got up and had a dance off to it. And anyway, a few hours later, as the party calming down, you know what divvy drunken birds always do is I'll play us a tune, And I forgot to hide the guitars. Usually when I get people around, I hide them, right, for that very reason, that they wanted to play Master Plan at 5 o'clock in the morning when you're drunk and you can't play it. And then you get to the bit where the singing comes in, everyone has turned their back and start talking to each other. So they're like, oh, come on, lads, play us a tune. So I can't remember what I played, some fucking Oasis tune. And on the guitar to Weller, he plays them a new song.
It's not even out yet.
I fucking, honestly, I had tears coming down my face. It makes me laugh so much when I think of it. There's like, maybe 8 people in a real birds fucking plays a tune, Paul. And he decided this fucking tune. And it was what became, what was the tune? Wild Blue Yonder.
Oh, right. Okay, so that is,
and he was writing it, and he's writing it, and he went, oh, fucking play this tune. And starts this thing, and I was going, what's this one? I said, I think there's a new one.
At that point, anything, he could have played any of the Jam back catalogue.
At least fucking hell, have a go at fucking Town Call Malice. Come on, man, do you know what I mean? Played a new tune. I was like, I was going to everybody, you see.
That's brilliant.
This is what we got to put up with.
Let's talk about the early days of his solo career, because you were onto that quite early on, seeing the movement. Right?
I went to see him at the Manchester Academy, and I went with Liam, actually. Had we just started Oasis, or I'd just joined anyway, and of course, we're all huge Jam fans, and he'd been out of the consciousness for a while. Anyway, he's playing the Academy, and we got to see him, and I don't remember the gig being this amazing fucking moment. But what I remember from the gig is him saying, like he always does, "Go and play something new for ya." And he played.
I love the impression.
Yeah, "Go play something new for ya." This is what he said at the party like that. "Play something new for ya." It's like, fucking hell, nice one, mate. It's 10-6. And he played Into Tomorrow. And the minute that guitar riff, I remember me and Liam stood at the back of the thing going, "Hello," and that was it. We were like, fucking hell. And it had everything that you would want in a Weller tune. Do you know what I mean? It was up, it was defiant, it was soulful, it was fucking having it. And then, and the whole thing went from there, really. that first Weller solo album came out with that great picture of him on the cover. Yeah, and I remember just thinking, this is fucking amazing, you know. I don't remember thinking, oh, he's back, you know, and all that. We were busy doing our thing, you know what I mean? But I remember buying that record, and I was playing that record recently, actually. It's fucking great, you know. Oh yeah, still one of my favourites. I love that tune.
That was the song that I discovered Paul Weller with. But
really?
Yeah.
It's a far out little tune. It's got that discordant brass thing going on, and he never plays it live. I did get him to play it once. And he said, yeah, I fucking played last night. Shit. But yeah, and then, and I've got another memory of us all going, we were on tour, early days of Oasis on tour at the time, when Wildwood came out. And I remember us listening to it in the van on cassette. Yeah, and then when we met him recently, like only a few months after that. It's a weird thing with, you know, like I was talking before about when things are in the air, you know, when what became known as Britpop thing started to happen, it started to happen for him as well.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because these kind of parallels with Oasis exploding and being massive, and this kind of journey, and then pulls back, if you like. Stanley Road is such a massive LP.
Yeah. Well, I'd say all the main players in those groups, Oasis, Pulp, Blur, we're all Jam fans, you know, all of us. Yeah, we all came through at the same time, and I remember him saying, it's the first time I've met a load of people in the music business I've got anything in common with, because we were all working class, you know, lads, and playing guitars and into the Beatles and the Kinks and all that kind of thing. And I think he's seen a bit of himself in us. I think it inspired him.
How quickly did you get over that kind of I'm a fan? Because I think your first proper meeting was at Glastonbury '94, wasn't it?
Somebody came up to me back then Glastonbury, the backstage was literally one tent and a few white plastic chairs kicked over in a corner. It wasn't like it is now. It's fucking insane now. We were just sat around in the damp drinking fucking lager at 2 PM, and someone said that I can't remember whether it was a journalist or someone had just done an interview with Weller, and he mentioned Oasis. Who was you looking forward to seeing? Or something mentioned Oasis, and I'd had enough to drink to go, where is he? And they were like, he's just stood over there. And I walked up to him and I said, all right, pleased to meet you. And within 20 minutes, he was like, where are you living? And I was like, I'm living in London. And he gave me his phone number. And he said, Bella's when you get back. I remember getting back to where I was living at the time, and I had his phone number. And I thought, yeah, you've sobered up and all that. And I'm like, should I? And I was like, so, you know, nowadays you message someone, don't you?
I was going to say, this is pre-smartphone as well, isn't it? So it's like
this is 1994. It's pre-everything, right? So now you would send a text message, and if you never got anything back, well, to call this number. Of course, he picked up the phone. I mean, he said hello. Who is it? And I was like, is that Paul? Yeah. Who's that? I was like, it's Noel Gallagher. Yeah. And he said, oh, look, where I said I'm in town. We went round to, he was living in a Muse house in Maida Vale, actually, where we would both end up living. Went round to his house. By the end of the night, we were going to start a supergroup, and he'd written down the set list. We were going to open with Dead End Street by the Kinks. We were just going to do covers.
Nice.
of all the, and the irony of it all is he was renting this Muse house that was owned by Adam Clayton from U2, who he fucking hates.
I wanted to ask you about Bono, because I see that you kind of tease him at times.
Yeah, well, so he doesn't like, claims he doesn't like, you know what I mean? He's always like, fucking Bono, you're mate. I remember once I was going off on holiday, right? I was going to Bono's at the south of France, right? And he'd invited us down, and can I tell you this story? So as I'm packing the fucking thing to go, he calls me, right, mate, what are you up to this afternoon? I'm like, well, I'm just out the door. And I'm just off on holiday. All right, where are you going? I'm going to south of France. All right, where are you staying? I was like, I'm staying at Bono's. He went, yes, mate, where are you staying? And I was like, I'm staying at Bono's. He went, yeah, fucking go on, mate. Give us a shout when you get back. And I was like, all right. So we're down the south of France, right? We go out for dinner one night. Me and Bono and his missus and his kids and my kids, right? And we go into this restaurant, and wouldn't you fucking know it, Elton John is in there, right? And I know, right, he's not got a lot of time for these people, right? Well, so I said to both of them, I never do this, right? can the three of us get a selfie because I want to send it to somebody, right? Because I knew it'd fucking do his head in, right? So we take a picture of me. I'm in the middle of Bono and Elton John, right? I've got my arms around him, right? And I send it to him saying, having a great time, I wish you were here, kind of something. And literally, as I fucking sent the thing, crying, laughing, the fucking thing came back and it was him. And he just sent me a text. He went, "You've gone too far." You've gone too far. So anyway, I get back a week later and he's living across the road, right? So as you can see into my kitchen, he must have been waiting on his balcony, smoking for me to get back. Right. And he fucking, literally as I walk in the door, the phone goes, "All right, mate, where are you?" And I was like, "I've just got back." And so he comes over and he's like, so where my kitchen, I buzz him in through the front door, right? And I'm stood with my back, because I know what's coming, right? And I'm stood with my back to him in the kitchen and I'm filling the kettle up to put the kettle on. And he's behind me and he's like, "All right, geez." And I'm like, "Yes, mate." And he's going, "Right, how was it?" And I said, "Yeah, it was fucking good, mate." And he was going, "Fucking," he's like, "How is he? You have to get down on one knee." He said to him, "Do you have to genuflect in front of him when you meet him?" And I mean, I've known Bono for longer than I've known Weller, right? I've known him for fucking years, right? He's my mate. All our kids are friends. He's like a family friend. So I'm filling up the kettle and he went, I said, "Do you want a cup of tea?" He went, "I'll have a fucking cup of tea." And he went, "Do fucking Bono make you a cup of tea?" "Hey, does he? Hey, does he make you a cup of tea?" And I went, "Mate, Bono ain't put the kettle on since the Joshua Tree." And he was like, and he was going, "Oh, I fucking bet he hasn't." Anyway, there's always been this fucking you two, this, that, and the other. Anyway, so fast forward, years and years and years and years and years and years, we're at some award ceremony, right? And Bono's there presenting me with an award, right? Weller's there because he's won something, right? And I know we're all going to be there. So I'm fucking like, right? But they don't know that each of them are going to be there, right? So I'm like a child, like a pathetic child getting high off the awkward scene that I'm going to cause, right? So I'm Bono's this thing, Weller's there. And so as you were doing the press thing, you know, like when someone presents you an award and then you go off and do a thing.
Right, let's take photos after, yeah.
So me and B stood, and I know Weller's getting the next award, right? So me and me are doing the thing. So with photographers here, and I can see Weller's walking up the fucking thing, and I'm like, this is just, it couldn't be more fucking perfect. So the thing about Bono is, right, he fucking loves Paul Weller, right? He loves him. And he'd always just say to me, "Oh, wait, get Paul." And I'm like, "Bono, you don't get it, right? He fucking hates everyone." No, the jam with that. I was like, "No, you don't get it, right? He fucking don't like you too. He hates it." So Weller comes walking up. And I grabbed Weller, right? And I'm like, "Getting here, hey, fuck it." Brilliantly, the photographer kept on shooting, right? And I've got a picture of the three of us, right? I'm in the middle, right? Weller's trying to get out of the picture. And I've got my arms right, and I've got it in my house. It's the fucking best picture. So I was like, "Paul, Bono, Paul, fucking hell, I believe you know each other," right? So it was like, you know, there was a bit of like fucking thing. Anyway, so a week later, I'm round at the shops in Maida Vale, and there's a guy around there who knows us both. He's like, "All right, no." I'm like, "Yes, mate." He's one of Weller's friends, and he says, "I believe you had a good day at the fucking Q Awards or whatever it was." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Yeah, Paul was telling me he met Bono." And I was like, "Was he now?" And he said, "Yeah, said he's a lovely bloke." And I said, "Did he now?" Fucking hell, that's interesting. He went, "Yeah, said he was a lovely man." And I was like, "Well, fucking hell, let's get him on the phone now, shall we?" You know, and I was like, "So believe Bono's a lovely man." "Yeah, he's all right, isn't he? Yeah, he's all right." I was like, "Yes, he is all right. I've been telling you for the last fucking 30 years he's all right." I don't know what the point of that story was, but there you go. Yeah. I don't know what the point of that story was, but there you go.
So you're meeting at Glastonbury, 95
Yes.
was such a massive year for Paul, and your connections as well. But obviously, you know, the band's going. Oasis, you're recording your second album at that point. You play on the Stanley Road. There was every time it seemed like you'd pop up and you'd be playing, I think, Swamp Song was one. You'd be playing Gilded Sphinxes on stage.
Yeah, we just happened to be around all the time. And when he was playing, we were in town, and of course Craddock had come on tour with Oasis, so we were really friendly with Steve and all the Ocean Colour Scene boys, and we'd always go to his gigs. You know, he'd always do this thing where he wouldn't say to you before the gigs, "You want to get up and do Woodcutter's Son?" He'd say to you in between the gig and the encore when you're rat-arsed, and he'd say, "You getting up?" I'd be like, "Well, fucking hell. And he's like, well, you fucking getting out, what? And I'd be like, yeah, yes. You know. I remember his sound man one night. I was so drunk one night. It was a big gig. Maybe it was in, is it Alexander Park? It was a huge gig. And of course, he did the thing. He never said, get up and do this tune. He said it at the, between the thing where he just gone, fucking great gig, mate. You can't even remember the start of the gig. You're that drunk. And he said, oh, get up and do such and such. And I got up, but I was so drunk I couldn't play. So he'd give me one of his guitars. So I just turned the volume right down, right? And I was giving it the bigger on stage. Well, I was going, go on, my son, fucking yes, mate. We're in the dressing room afterwards, and the sound man, Ange, who's been his sound man for ages, come up to me and said, you fucking playing now, what? And I was like, no, mate, I haven't got a fucking clue what I was doing. I switched off, and he said, I kept turning it up on the desk, and he said, there's no sound coming out, there's nothing coming out. And I was like, I was too drunk. All I could do was dance. You know, I couldn't even do that well. There was a tight little firm. There was his band and Ocean Colour Scene and us. And we all hung out there, the Primals. And we all hung out together. And we'd all go to each other's gigs and have a fucking great time and, you know, get up to all sorts of petty crimes. But they were great days. You know,
I guess also that was probably a time for all of you because it's, you know, you're selling massive amounts of records. It's huge.
Yeah.
Music is such an important thing. Again, probably that last period where it really culturally.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the excess, you know, you must have all taken it to as far as you could, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think out of all that lot, there's only me still drinking and, you know, doing that thing. And rightly fucking so. That's what, it's the only profession that I'm aware of where you're required.
You're right. I can't think of any others.
You're required, you know, to party as much as you can. And we certainly did that. But we used to have the best nights in talking shit about every, you know, music, and we're going to start this super group, we're going to do that, and you get up the next day and be like, well, I can't know what the fuck we were going on about last night. But I read somewhere
that you said Paul would always kind of retire basically at your house. He'd always talk about it kind of being the end.
Yes, he did go through a period where that's it for me next year, and we'd all be like, really? And he's like, yeah, that's it. I've had enough. And we were like, don't be fucking hell. I don't know where his head was at. I'm not, you know, because fucking hell. I mean, if no one is ever going to retire, it's going to be him, you know.
Let me ask you about Days of Speed tour. So this would have been, 2002? This is the acoustic tour, right? And I remember going in Bristol to what was then the Colston Hall. And I always loved the support act. So I will always support and go and see the support acts. And I was sitting down and we were right in the gods. This guy comes out and he starts playing an Oasis song. Plays another Oasis song. Who's this?
Oh, was it me?
Yeah, it's you.
Was it me?
Yeah.
No way.
I said to my brother, I said, oh, who's this Muppet? And then you played another Oasis song. I was like, oh, hold on, shit, it's Noel Gallagher. And that happened loads, though, because I remember people wandering in, like, you know, missing the support acts, and then they kind of clock you on stage and be like...
I just happened to be around, right? He said, oh, do you want to get up and do... I can't remember what... And I said, oh, fuck it, I'll come on tour. He's like, really? And I said, yeah, but don't announce it, you know. And that was great. It was great seeing people's faces. But I remember when he was doing that acoustic thing one night at Tea in the Park. I was up at Tea in the Park. I wasn't playing. I was just hanging out. And he was doing his acoustic thing. It was a fucking miserable day. I call him and he's, again, 10 minutes before he goes on stage, he says, you want to go up and do Town Called Malice? And I was like, Now, at that point, I've only ever sung Town Called Malice. Like pissed with everyone else.
Yeah. Thinking you know the words.
Do I?
No, you
mate,
you're right.
No. Nobody knows the words. You think you know the words. You know the bits, right? It's a big decision. You know that bit, right? You know the first line. Stop dreaming of a quiet life because it's the one that... What are the rest? What are the rest? Nobody fucking knows. Big decision. You know that bit, right? Because you're rat ass singing it with all your mates, right, in the park, fucking, you know, midnight, thinking you fucking rock stars. He's like, you know, do Town Called Malice. And I was like, well, at least he's given me an hour's notice, you know. And I was like, right. And he said, and I was thinking, I've never played. I don't know the fucking chords. And I was like, what? He said, you do know it, don't you? And I was like, yes. You know, and I was like, fucking had to get somebody's fucking phone and be like, fucking hell, in a little room. I mean, oh, the chords there. Yeah, but then one of the best nights, actually, we did an end up High Flying Birds at the end of one World Tours. He got up and did Pretty Green and Town Called Malice with us. And in the lead up to that gig, we were in America. So all across America, we were rehearsing the tunes. And it's only when I had the words in front of me for Town Called Malice that you realise what that song means. I mean, the words are fucking astonishing. They really are. And you're just really going, is that what it says? You know, it's either cut down on beer or the kids' new gear. I'm like, what? You know, who mentions beer in a song anyway? You know what I mean? Apart from the Wurzels or some shit. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, it's only when you see these words written down and you're singing them going, fuck, I mean, that is an astonishing song. It really fucking is. I mean, I know he's in awe of McCartney and all that, but he needn't be because, I mean, he's written some fucking great words when you read them. It's just like, man, you can fucking come up with that. It's unbelievable.
The things like Tube Station when you read that.
And he's a guy that, by his own admission, is not well read. Do you know what I mean? He hates books, you know. So where this all comes from is what's got to be somewhere within him. Do you know what I mean?
Let me ask you about 22 Dreams, because this was, again, the connection. We mentioned Echoes Around the Sun, but that for you is like a really important one.
Yeah. It was another gear shift. I remember going down to Black Barn and we were doing Echoes Around the Sun, or what became of it. And he started playing us. And then, after about 10, you're going, how many fucking songs are on this record? It's like, it's a double album. It's like, oh, wow. And I became song after song, and it was chaotic and mad and disjointed and funny and fucking brilliant. And I was just like, I remember I was with Gem. I remember driving home going, fucking hell, it's like a record an 18-year-old would make. Do you know what I mean? Who just had a load of fucking ideas. And it was so up and joyous. Still, I reckon, it's up there with his best albums. Yeah, it's amazing. Really fucking is. And Push It Along, I remember Push It Along being the standout one. And I was like, the chord changes are mad. And the singing's wild. I remember me and Gem coming out of the studio going, fucking hell. You know, it was just like a gear shift, you know what I mean? He got into hyperdrive for that thing, and that tour was great. That 22 Dreams tour was amazing.
It was probably like kicking it off as well as in a few of the mosh pits around that time. People were really going and loving it.
Yeah.
Is that inspiring for you? So around that time would have been like a year later, the end of Oasis. And I don't know whether it was always the plan to go solo in your head from that point on. But, you talk about lyrics. Presumably the creation of the music is also inspiring to you. Well,
initially because I had a load of songs written that were going to be on the next Oasis album. So initially, no. But as I've got into High Flying Birds thing, the Style Council, it's kind of... I'm always trying to sell my stuff to myself. If I can sell it to me, I can sell it to someone else. And if I sell it to me first, then we're halfway there. And, I was getting a lot of flack for High Flying Birds, which I'm sure he would have got in the age of social media, But outside of that, you're in your own little bubble. And
it's also, what are you paying attention to?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, in this day and age, you can't get away from it, and it's in every fucking interview, And I was like, no, this is my style council. If Oasis was the jam, this is my style council. And I'll try anything, and that's, attempting to do 3 EPs in a year without having any songs written before I went in there was fucking ridiculous. But it was kind of like the spirit of it was, we can do anything. And that's when I started adding girls and brass sections and all that. So it's become the Style Council, and his transition from that to the Style Council has become, like an inspiration almost. You know what I mean? It's like anything is possible, and you've always got to keep moving forward. You know what I mean? I don't mind looking back as long as you don't stare at it too much. He's more brutal than I am. I mean, I remember going to see him all the way through the 90s, and he would not fucking play a single song.
Yeah, completely. Whereas you've always embraced that catalogue.
We're different. It's a different thing with us. I didn't have a wealth of material.
I guess also that split of the Style Council, maybe he felt he had something to prove again.
Well, this is it. I remember one night, can't remember what gig it was, but he did. I think it must have been Town Called Malice, and it was like such a fucking thing. I remember saying to him, "What the fuck?" And he went, "I think I've proved my point." But that's him though.
Case closed.
Yeah, I've proved my point now. He was like 20 years into a solo thing, like he had a point to prove. Do you know what I mean? But maybe he's proven it to himself.
Well, I remember talking to people like Alan McGee, but people like Eddie Pillar and stuff, where that first album they couldn't get a deal. It was like people, no, he's all washed up, mate.
By his own admission, Into Tomorrow, we spoke about, was the spark that set it all off. It was a new thing for him, a new energy. And why he didn't get a record deal is beyond me. I don't know. But his songwriting in those years when he couldn't get a record deal couldn't have been on a level with Wildwood. You're not telling me someone's sitting there fucking writing Wildwood and playing it to people and going, don't hear it, mate. Do you know what I mean? So your talent or your thing will always dictate what you receive. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying he wasn't writing great songs. I don't know much about him in that period. I was too busy doing my own thing. But you're not telling me people say it now about young bands don't get a chance. It's like, you're not telling me some geezer sitting writing fucking Don't Look Back in Anger, Brother Chippy and Bradford. Nobody knows about it. No, I don't think so. I'd have thought what he was doing, people weren't into it. You know what I mean? And
let me ask you about John Weller, because he would have been around an awful lot of those kind of times and passed, sadly, a little later. There
was one night, we happened to be in town, right? Oasis on a night off. Weller was playing the G-Mex. We said to Weller, we'll go on before you. I can't remember where it was. It might be at the Apollo. And I'm not even sure it happened, right? And he was like, really? And we were in town. We had all the gear there. We don't know what the fuck we were doing in town. But anyway, we were all there. We were all up for it. And John offered us 50 quid. Right? We were number one in the charts at the time, right? And I don't know whether this story is true, but from people who were around him said, Weller said, oh, Dad, going to get Oasis on to support us tonight. All right, who are they? They're from Manchester. He's like, what, local band? It's 50 quid. The local band fee's 50 quid. And I wonder, did we do that again? I can't remember.
I like that. It's almost like a badge of honour, though, isn't it? It's like this John Weller payment, 50 quid.
Yeah, it was so funny. It's like 50 quid. And I think somebody tapped him on the shoulder and said, they might be worth a bit more than 50 quid. That local band, 50 quid. I'm not sure whether we did that gig. I kind of seem to think that we did do it. Or maybe we didn't. I don't know. But John was what a dude. Yeah, what a dude. You would always trying to get you to play cards.
I was going to ask, did you join the cards?
Yeah, no, I never did. Fuck that. No, him and Kenny and all the old boys on the tour bus. They're like, come on, son, see what you got. I'm not a card player. Yeah. Well, I'm not a card player anyway, you know what I mean? Or a gambler or anything like that. I would sit on the tour bus. Yeah, you'd see no one had ever won any money. Yeah, there was loads of money changing hands. John would always try and get you involved in the card game. And he'd always say to me, fucking hell, son, crack a smile, son. Are you joining us? I'm like, fuck, I'm playing cards with you. Like, play Snap if you want. But he was a top dude. He was a fiercely fucking loyal to Paul. And there's all that great footage of him introducing the Jam, back in the best band in the fucking world, the Jam. Yeah, he was a top dude. And his mum as well. And she's a force of nature too. They're fierce family. They don't fuck about with them, that's for sure.
The thing that I find really interesting from what you've been talking about as well, this is not a superficial relationship that you two have. And you've obviously, we all go through peaks and troughs in our lives and go through, obviously, John passing away, relationships, all that kind of thing, friends passing away, all that kind of stuff. You're there for each other in those scenarios, right?
Yeah. I've seen him at his highest, and I've seen him when he's been when he's been going through a lot of fucking shit, and vice versa.
Paul talked about this when we chatted last year, the time when he gave up the booze. As guys who are going out drinking together, how do you approach that? Kind of like, actually, I'm not drinking anymore. We're doing something different. What do you go and do instead? I
don't know. I don't think he goes out drinking anymore. He came to my wedding to Sarah, and he wasn't drinking, and there was, I mean, that's one of the things you have to take into account when you're deciding to give it up. Everyone else is still bang at it, you know what I mean? But he came to my wedding and it was, as he always is, but left at 8 o'clock, as opposed to 8 o'clock in the morning, with no top on, fucking fighting with someone. Yeah. But I'm glad he doesn't drink anymore, because he's what's the word I'm looking for? Everything from an outsider and from his mate who loves him, everything has improved in the way he looks and his life and his music and his outlook on everything. I think not that it's bad before, because 22 Dreams came at the height of the madness, and that reflected in the record. I fucking love that record.
As in another period of excess.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But no, he's been great. He didn't come to my 50th, which was a shame. But that was mad. That was a mad weekend. Look, do you know what was good? It was a good thing that he kicked it in the head while it was still his decision, I think. he's fucking stuck to it, and he's extremely fucking, he'll say things to me like, "You all right, mate?" I'm like, "Yeah, see, you want to get down to fucking gym, son." So like, all right. Okay, like that now, is it? Okay.
He's so prolific. We've had over the past, what's it been, like 5-6 years, True Meanings, On the Sunset, Fat Pop, 66 now. He just keeps going. But I guess you're probably coming from the same angle as well as him. It's like, what else are you doing?
It might be a Gemini thing. McCartney's one as well. Do you know what I mean? I think we share a love of what we do. And the last time he was round at mine was a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, we were like, what are you doing? How was the thing when you played it live? And what are you going to do with that? And I can see in him that he's still 1 fucking billion% into the craft. And I am too, and it was when I played the Albert Hall, March 21st this year for the Teenage Cancer Trust. Some nights you understand, he was there, and he was, he couldn't see us beforehand and all that, blah, blah, blah. And we came off stage thinking, that's one of the best gigs we've ever, ever, ever done. And the next morning, he messaged me and was saying, that is one of the top 10 gigs I've ever seen in my entire life. And it meant so much to me, you know what I mean? Because sometimes you live in your own bubble and you think you're great. And I remember showing the message to the rest of the band, and they were all thrilled, you know what I mean? Because he's held in such high esteem as a musician, as a songwriter, as a lyricist, for integrity and just being Paul Weller that, and I was like, I knew it was a fucking great gig. And we were talking about, the game and how it's changed and bands and what we're up to. America, are you going to do this? And Australia, and I'm not going to do that because I can't afford. So we're at the same. We've got a fucking lot in common, and which is, I guess, why we've been friends such a long time. I remember when I first met him, somebody saying, "Oh, you'll fall out with you eventually," and I was like, "Really?" And it was like, falls out with everyone, and I was like, we've never fallen out, I guess because we don't live in each other's pockets. And as close as we live as close as I am to across the street. It takes me seconds to walk to his house. And we rarely see each other. Obviously, we text and message all the time. He'll say, "Oh, you want to check this record out?" Or I'll send him some. Or he'll pop round to see me. Or when he's back in Maida Vale, when he's not out in Surrey where his studio is. I guess it's because we're always busy doing our respective things, and there's a lot of respect there between the two of us. I think self-made men, been in hugely important British groups. I've had solo careers that have been critically acclaimed and panned at the same time, and have kept going, and working class and, kids and all that kind of thing. Yeah, we've got a lot in common. We've got a lot to talk about. And I haven't seen him for, I speak to him a lot, but I haven't seen him for a while. And glad to say he's my friend and fellow traveller. I
should ask you before we wrap up, actually, what's next for you then? So you are working on new material, right?
Yes, I'm off there now, actually. I'm finishing off some stuff. Nothing with any great conviction, because I want to take a bit of time. The one thing that we don't share is the output. He fucking gets them out. I'm a bit like, if I make one album every fucking 5 years, I'm all right. Do you know what I mean? I like to amass a load of songs first. So I work every day, and the tours are so long now that I definitely wouldn't want anything out next year. So these lot fucking want it out tomorrow, right? But so when these lot they're at it saying, "Oh, you've been in the studio," I'm like, no. This year is earmarked for demos. Next year will be right. What kind of record are we going to do? This is what we're going to do. And then 2026 it will probably be out. But that's all very, very tentative.
The thing that really strikes me, though, is like you talked about Teenage Cancer Trust gig this year, like one of the best gigs. Like the album's still, like we're 30 years into your career now. Council Skies, it's just, it's right up there, right?
This is another thing. It's like I'm wise enough now to know that with that record, I reached a certain level of perfection with it, with the sound and the way that it is and the songs and all that. And the mistake that I made when I did that with Morning Glory was to go back in the studio and just carry on. It's like, I need to let that record land for me. Not once it stops selling, fine, whatever, but for me, I need to let that go, because I'm in a strange position. I never realized it in the 90s, but it's like, how do you beat that? I don't give a fuck what anyone else thinks about it. It's like, for me personally, it's kind of like, right, how do I do something that's different to that, but better than that. And what I'm not going to do is rush into and just make another record and go out on the road and see what happens.
So then that time you're talking about Be Here Now. We became that, right?
Yeah, it's like...
Didn't Paul say something about that? What was he said? Go on, tell me.
He said, one word. And do you know what? He was right? He was right. And I never take offense at anything that he says because I'm not that insecure about what I do. Because you know what? He knows I don't give a fuck, right? When he heard it, he just went, fucking coasting there, mate. Oh, yeah. Oh, mate, he's fucking brutal. He's fucking brutal. And, yeah. But he was right. You know, I dialed it in.
You think that? I mean, we love that album, but I know what you're saying.
No, I'm not. The thing with Be Here Now, had Morning Glory not come before it, had Morning Glory come after it, there's a whole different, the whole narrative is completely different. But for me as a songwriter, I wrote it on holiday. And I always tell you, I had a great holiday. You know, I dialed it in. And some of the songs still stand up. There's a lot of unnecessary guitar whittly-diddling on it. And the songs are a bit long and lyrics are fucking bollocks. But look, who am I to say?
Final question. So you're allowed one Paul Weller song for the rest of your life. Everybody on the podcast gets one. Could be the Jam, the Style Council, or solo. What would you go with?
For the rest of my life, I do say this a lot, right? And people might think, really, it's like choosing your best Beatles song or your favourite Beatles song. It's like if you choose this one, you go like, well, what about that? What about that? Or what about that? I always go with what I would have listened to recently. The last tune I heard of his, like the other day, was actually one of my favourite tunes he's ever written, which is White Horses.
Oh, you played on that, I think, didn't you? On True Meanings? Did you play on that organ, maybe?
Please tell me I didn't, because I have no recollection of that. Did I? Oh, no, surely not.
I think you did.
That's why I love it so much. I love that record. And when I seen the gig at the Royal Festival Hall, it was the best I'd ever seen him. You know, and he was doing jam songs with the strings and all that.
Oh, the Style Council.
You know, Boy About Town. And it was just brilliant. I go with White Horses. Is not my favourite song. There's a fucking thousand. I mean, almost every single song from Snap is a classic. Sound Effects is one of the best British albums ever. Best of the Style Council. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know, but White Horses, final answer.
It's locked in. This has been such a blast.
Oh, cool. Thank you very much.
Look, thank you so much for your time.
That's
really appreciate it. Noel.
No worries.
My thanks once again to Noel Gallagher for joining me on the podcast. Another one of those real pinch me moments in this series for me. This is bonkers, isn't it? And can I just say as well, Jumble Queen, what an absolute banger, both live and on record. Just brilliant. A reminder, if you've enjoyed this episode of the Paul Weller Fan Podcast, you can find a whole box set packed full of brand new episodes. The Story of 66, available now wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and more, or at paulwellerfanpodcast.com. Whilst you're on my website, why not head into our store, grab yourself a virtual coffee. It's always nice to get a little thanks for this free content. Much appreciated. All available online, paulwellerfanpodcast.com. And here's the big ask. Please do spread the word on social media. So many amazing people giving their time for free to chat to me on these episodes of the podcast. So I'd love it if you could spread the word. Facebook, Instagram, and X. Tell everybody about the Story of 66, this celebration of the brand new album from Paul Weller. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.